And good morning and welcome to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. Bill Dixon and Michael Shetler running the show this morning. First guest is Randy Smith. Coach Smith, thanks for being with us this morning.
Hey, good morning, guys.
What are you doing with the program this year?
I'm the 7th grade basketball coach, boys, at Wawasee Middle School.
And what's it like coaching 7th grade boys?
It's fun. It's interesting trying to, mold these kids into, get them ready, for 8th grade and then 8th grade, obviously, into high school. Just trying to teach them some skills and fundamentals and just try to have some fun.
What do they know by the time they get to you?
It's a wide range sometimes. Some of them are pretty skilled. Some of them have played club or AAU ball in the summertime, and some, maybe just driveway basketball. So we got quite a wide variety.
Yeah, Coach, 7th grade is kind of a good mix between kind of like close to high school, but then still young enough that you're still kind of getting to learn the ropes in that area. Are there any specific kind of tools or skills that you're trying to develop at that age specifically?
Biggest thing for that I think the program is ball handling and your shooting. Trying to get kids that handle the ball at any size. The kids are just starting to grow. So if you have a bigger kid, he may not grow too much, but you're trying to get the skill development, ball handling especially.
I hear a lot about these internet videos on the YouTube and things like that where people are trying to teach basketball. And is that any good? Does that work? Do those kids, first of all, are the kids using that?
With my team, we haven't really talked about it. Yeah, some of them do. Some of my kids at home have done that.
Are they any good?
It just depends. That's a good question. I think that you have good and bad.
And the kids really can't tell the difference unless you helped them do that, right?
Yeah, that or if they have some direction at home. If they do something, if they try something, it's better than nothing. If they come in with some skill, I think the videos are a helpful tool to a point. Not everybody's going to be the best ball handler in the world, or they can learn some things that maybe aren't so good. But I think overall, it's good.
So how many kids you got on your team, and how's your season progress?
We have 12 kids this season. We've had 6 games. Actually, we play this morning at 10 o'clock at Fairfield. We're 4-2 actually in our Northern Lakes Conference, which isn't it's not the Northern Lakes Conference, but the conference we're in. We're actually 3-0.
Because you guys don't travel as far, right?
No, we don't travel as far. Some of the schools like Concord, Goshen, and a few of our high school NLC schools, their season is done at Christmas, and we start a little bit later than they do. So we have some of our teams and some of, like Bremen and a few others that aren't in our regular conference.
So your kids actually get to participate not just in basketball, but if they wanted to, they can participate in other sports that at the high school level are going on at the same time as basketball.
Yeah, you could do that, especially in middle school. Wrestling, I think, starts right after Christmas, so there's an intertwine where we might have a couple kids that wrestle and play basketball at the same time.
So what's it look like?
The season so far?
Yeah.
We're actually off not to a bad start. 4-2. We've lost 3 or 4 games due to the virus and different cancellations, and I don't know if we'll be able to get those back. I think we go into the middle of November as our conference, or middle of January is our conference tournament. So I don't think we will get some of those games, but it's been an up and down. We've missed some practices, obviously due to quarantining. I think we've had a few kids affected with the virus, but mostly the close contact. So it's been a very interesting year for sure.
Yeah, Coach, I'm glad you bring up the virus. I feel like that's such a interesting topic to talk about. Just kind of explain a little bit what your message has been to the guys. I'm sure it's just been kind of like you said, up and down. There's been a lot of cancellations we've already seen with the high school. Me and Bill have had multiple games canceled already. I'm sure it's still affecting middle school just as much as it's affecting high school. So how is that really affecting your guys right now? What's your message to your team?
Actually, the message, I have a few kids my kids at home. They're in the program here, boys and girls, and I just try to tell my team we're very fortunate. We've got 6 games under our belt. I don't think any team at the high school level has got at our high school has that many games. It's just trying to appreciate the game, appreciate practice, appreciating having the opportunity just to show up for a practice. I enjoy actually practice more than the games. I don't know if that's a typical coach thing, but just having the opportunity. I think we look at it differently now that we're blessed just even to be able to come.
That's got to be a big part of your role at a middle school level, is teaching an attitude toward the game. Yes. You tell them to appreciate it, but there's more to it than that.
There's a lot more to it than that. You just trying to mold these kids. Just a lot of our kids are pretty good kids. They have good family. They have good families at home. The families are raising them well. I can see it at practice. Just enjoy it. I myself have taken it for granted. I think we all have to take a step back and look to see how fortunate we are. And there's some kids that they go to school and they get close contact. I think they've had maybe 2 or 3 times in a row. So just being able to come to practice, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself. Just enjoy it. Enjoy every moment. You have to, and it's not easy to do. We all get complacent with things sometimes, but I think just the mindset, if we can change it to just enjoy every day, enjoy what we have.
Yeah, Coach, something that's really been fascinating to me, I think, in this facet, I feel like in particular in this day and age, AAU has really kind of come of age, especially in that age. You get into 7th and 8th grade. That's kind of when AAU starts to really get popular. You get into those high school years that really starts to become even more popular. Kind of taking a look at the AAU game compared to kind of like the high school, middle school game. Do you see any differences, or do you see any reasons as to why this is getting so popular right now?
Well, I think with AAU, I've participated in it with my kids. I've actually coached a little bit of that. The difference I see, I think it's helpful in some ways. It can be hurtful in some ways. The helpful part is it keeps the kids playing the game, keeps them active. It's the summertime also. I think we should have more multi-sport athletes and not just focus on one sport. So I think it could potentially take a kid out of baseball or golf or something like that. That's the negative. And I think the coaches in that, it's just different. We try to do it, team atmosphere, obviously at the school level. And I think AAU is more individual. You're trying to get showcased, to get noticed, and that's not necessarily a bad thing at all. I'm not opposed to that. But then you have, I'm not saying on my team, but I've seen before, you'll have kids come in with their kind of their own agenda. Mm-hmm. And that's this. It's not trying. They're not really they're team oriented. They're not ready to come back to the team, mentally. I think they're thinking of more how they can get better instead of focusing on the team and how we can get better.
And that's a problem that's existed for well over my lifetime. More than 100 years has been the battle between the individual and the team. At the high school level, I've got to think down at that middle school level, you got to cook that out of them. I got to believe that.
Yeah, you have to. It's hard because I'm also at 7th grade at 12, 13 years old. I'm not necessarily, I can't be like Coach Everingham and, get on these players a little bit harder. They need, some of these kids need that at the high school level. And so I'm not saying they don't at the middle school. So I kind of try to walk a fine line where not so much as tough a love as you need up at the high school level, but trying to prepare them for that. I'm trying to prepare them for what could be coming, what coaches could be saying to them. And I have to do a little bit of discipline myself, but not, I have, it's a little bit different. They're still a little more sensitive, I think at that age than they are in high school.
So, talk a little bit about the multi-school system we have here, because you've got Milford and you got Wawasee. Do you guys play each other?
Yeah, we did. I think it was the first or second game. I'm not sure. It's not a fun game because we're one team when it comes to it, and some years, one team has been better than the other, and I think these past few years we've just had a little bit more talent over on at the Wawasee Middle School than Milford, and there's some talent there. But you
got more bodies. We draw
exactly. From. It's like the David and Goliath. Like sometimes when we face Warsaw, which I think we're catching in my opinion, anyways. But it's not fun. It's not fun to have pit buddies against each other. In practice is one thing, but a game it's totally different.
So the day and age that I came from, where Syracuse, Milford, North Webster, back pre-Wawasee Middle School. I know it's amazing, Michael. There was a but there was.
Right.
I was actually there too.
I went to a cave to begin middle school. Anyway, that day is over. That day is past. You're not going to focus on we got to beat them because they're Milford and they're a rival.
Right,
and we're not going to have that, right?
Right. No, not at all. We just we'll go out and play hard, and if we have to not let up, but let everybody get into the game. It's just I wish we could be one. I don't know if that'll ever happen. I know there's dynamics to the situation that are far beyond my control, but I just wish that we could combine somehow. They do in football. I wish we could do that in basketball. I really do.
How do you work with the parents at that age? Because I got to believe your relationship, you've already talked about your relationship with the player being different. Yeah. I got to believe your relationship with the parent is a lot different at that age too.
It's different. I think now more than ever, I think parents have a little bit more involvement than they used to. Me personally, with my kids playing, I try to I stay out of it. They have to pave their own path. I've taken them as far as I can take them, and I coach obviously, and I haven't. At a certain age, I think for most parents and most coaches, you need to step away. For me, definitely, but it's different. There's a little more communication, which is fine, but I have a pretty good group of parents. I don't have any issues with my team, and I've had a few, but very few in the last 3 or 4 years.
We're with Coach Randy Smith of the Wawasee Middle School 7th grade boys basketball program. Michael?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Coach, kind of in comparison to high school, is there anything about like middle school in particular that you truly like value or appreciate or just enjoy more about coaching this particular level of basketball in comparison to maybe high school basketball?
I think with this, it's I wouldn't say innocent. It's a little more innocent. It's fun to see kids, the enjoyment they still have in the game, and I'm hoping that high school the kids still have the enjoyment. It's a little bit different. They're not most of them are not as serious and competitive at that age. They're starting to develop that. I think the having fun, enjoying the game, and trying to teach them it's not all about winning, it's enjoying it, competing and things like that. Just trying to mold them to get them ready. I enjoy that.
As your season starts to head towards an end, are you going to send them home after the season's over with I won't call it homework. It's almost like summer reading. Skills and drills that they could do on the driveway that will prepare them for the next season of basketball?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll communicate with them like I do every year. Just keep working on your game. Like you said, there's so many videos. There's so many things out there to do.
I would just be worried that some of those videos, you don't know where that's coming from. You don't know whether it's going to help you or hurt you.
Yeah, you're right. I definitely the communication. Just they need to work on the simple fundamentals. Give them. I usually give them direction at the end of the season just to go and get ready for next year because it's another level up. 8th grade, from 7th grade to 8th grade, 8th grade up.
Well, more than just telling them go and get ready, are you going to give them almost like an agenda of things they should do?
Yeah. We'll lay out a plan this year for them and give them what they maybe more tailored to the individual if they want to play next year to help build their skill, what they need to work on. Yeah, definitely we'll communicate that with them.
Coach, I know we're kind of running low on time here, but before we kind of get things wrapped up here, do you want to just kind of let us know what your future looks like here with the program? Like what games are coming up for you guys? Are fans available to go watch the games? Kind of what's coming up for you guys?
Just like high school, it's kind of a school-by-school basis. Fairfield, we play Fairfield today. 8th grade actually tips at 9. And then 7th grade tips following that, 10 o'clock. Next Thursday, we were at West Noble for our last game before Christmas. And then I think we have 2 weeks of the season after we get back from Christmas, then our conference tournament. We play, I think our biggest game coming up is Edgewood, not overlooking any opponent. It's a Warsaw school. And actually, 7th grade, we just played Lakeview this past week, and we took them down. It was fun. It was real fun. But
Coach Randy Smith of the Wawasee Middle School 7th graders. Coach Smith, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, guys.
When we come back, a word with Coach O'Connell. This is Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 927themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 927themix.com. Bill Dixon and Michael Shetler with Coach Nate O'Connell of the Wawasee Warriors. Coach O'Connell, we're used to seeing Coach Everingham. I understand he and many of the rest of the Wawasee Warriors have caught this evil disease.
Yeah, somehow I have survived. And I'm
it's
here
all
with
that
you today.
pizza you grew up with that keeps it away.
Yeah, Pizza King. So
that's right.
If you want to stay away from any viruses, just eat a lot of Pizza King. Dad would appreciate that.
So what are things looking like practice-wise for you? Because I know you got a lot of guys out.
Yeah, we haven't been able to do anything for the last week other than, guys watching some games that have been live streamed. Jack Stover has been in to shoot. We've worked out a few times, got on the gun and got some shots up.
What do you mean the gun?
We got a device called the gun that rebounds balls for it and shoots it back out to him. So you can get, he gets about 300 shots up in a matter of 30, 45 minutes.
Wow. Okay, so you've been doing a little bit with Jack and basically waiting for the rest of the guys to come back from being sick.
Yeah, it looks like Monday we'll have most of our guys back and we can kind of ease into it, which is, great when you play Warsaw on Friday night. To have to come back from this and ease into it. And we obviously the safety and health of our players is at the forefront, is the most important thing to everything. And so we just got to be a little careful. We don't try to overdo it early on.
Yeah, particularly this way, because these young people, you don't really know what their reaction is going to be on the back end. It could take a long time, or it could be instantaneous, their recovery.
And it seems pretty individualized to how people recover. Some people not too long at all to recover, and some are taking months to get better. So you just got to play it by ear and ease into it and make sure we don't overdo anything.
This has got to be the weirdest year in the world, and now we're headed into the Warsaw game with the victory over Warsaw, of course, being one of the 3 ways to have a winning season at Wawasee. This has got to be, you got to be going nuts.
Yeah, it's really strange. We talked after our first 2 games, just like, hey, we're just thankful we got 2 games in. There was a chance that we didn't play any games at all this year, so thankful for what you have. Make the most of every moment. I think it makes you appreciate basketball and the season even more than you normally would, and I think the guys probably going to feel the same way too, especially after this season's over. Some of the guys that played baseball last year know what it's like to lose an entire season, and it is possible. So we're just glad that we're playing right now. We're going to practice this week, and of course, TV Game of the Week, Channel 46 Game of the Week, and Warsaw, NLC. We'll be 2-0 going into that game. Warsaw's always good. They won on the last-second shot last night against Lake Central, so should be a good game.
Yeah, Coach, there's a lot going on, like you said. Not only have we started off to a 2-0 season, which is really good, and then we had a huge win over Angola at Angola. It's a dominating win. But then you have this COVID kind of affect us, where we're having players go down. We've missed multiple games now that have been either postponed or canceled. Where do you think your guys' confidence is at? It had to be high after those wins, but then we've had these kind of COVID stretches where people have been out and not been able to play. Like, where do you think your team is at in that regard?
That is a great question. I could probably tell you more after the Warsaw game on Friday night, but you're right. We were feeling really good on Saturday night after our win at Angola. Hadn't beaten them in 6 years, so to go up there and beat them bad, just dominating that game was a good feeling. Our guys were super confident, and then it hit. I think the guys, talked to Keaton Dukes a little bit on Google Meet the other night, and he was. He had that swagger. He still has that confidence. I probably would too if I scored, 24 points in a game against Angola. But I think they have confidence. Now it's just a matter of getting, you want to get back to where you were at, first of all. But this is the time of the season where you're supposed to be getting better. So, other teams that have been able to practice are getting better. And we probably had to take a step back or two.
So, Warsaw beats Lake Central last night. What kind of game are they going to bring to the gym?
Well, they had a new coach in Matt Moore, he's been around the area. He used to coach for Jim Kessler at Grace College, went down to Mount Vernon Nazarene, was head coach there at college level. Came back to Indiana high school basketball. He's been at Kokomo and Fishers and back to Warsaw now. And he runs a quite different style than Coach Ogle did at Warsaw, and he likes to push the pace. They run a 4-out, 1-in motion offense. They are really aggressive. Probably the biggest difference is how they play defense this year compared to last year, and they're more aggressive. Doug Ogle's teams used to pack it in a little bit more, play a pack line defense where Coach Moore's team really likes to pressure on the forefront, and they've got some guys to do it too. They're big, super big, 6'6", 6'5", athletic players. Obviously, their football team's been successful, and some of those guys are football players, and it's pretty obvious when you see them out on the court.
Wow, that is a lot different than Warsaw brought to the table previously, and that's got to worry you even more because with your kids coming off of COVID, energy level may be a problem.
Yeah, we know we're probably going to, maybe even missing a few guys by Friday night. We're going to have to dig deeper into our bench than we probably did the first 2 games, which is going to open up opportunities for some of the younger guys that haven't played all the varsity minutes that some of the other guys have this year. And it creates a challenge but an opportunity. So I think when it comes down to it on Friday night, we'll be excited and guys are going to get to play, and it's just be a fun time to step on the court again.
If you could find any positive out of this COVID situation, what would you say it would be?
Well, I think the biggest thing is what I mentioned earlier is just the appreciation.
Yeah.
Understanding that not to take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be there next week. It might not be there next month. That, and I think it's going to give some other guys some opportunities that they wouldn't normally have gotten in a normal year. And, we'll see this Friday, next Tuesday at Columbia City. We'll probably be in the same boat still, but, we might see some guys get on the floor that haven't really played much this year.
You expect this to generate an increased mental toughness, sort of a back against the wall, us against the world, even the COVID's against us type of perspective?
Yeah, I think we've got a pretty tight group, and I think this is only going to bring them closer together. Definitely is going to not only develop some mental toughness, but some physical toughness. I think guys are really going to have to push themselves to get back into shape. I think conditioning-wise, it's going to be a struggle for us, especially this week and next week. And, we got to ease into it. We have to be careful, but I think guys are going to really find something that they need to have, like find another gear. So that should be exciting.
I mentioned this at the game at Angola. Your team has a serenity on the floor that in over 20 years of calling Wawasee basketball, I've never seen before. And I don't think I've ever seen it in a high school team. Where does that come from?
Well, I think it starts, honestly, with two senior guards that come back with a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
You put Cameron Salazar, Ethan Carey out there, and then Keaton Dukes has a year and plus varsity experience. Not very often do you come into a season to start with three guards with that much varsity experience. Mm-hmm. Throw in the fact that Cameron Salazar and Ethan Carey are some of the nicest, calmest kids you've ever been around.
That's what I see. It's a calmness on the floor no matter what. You couldn't shake that team if you put them in a jar and put it in a paint shaker.
I mean, Cameron's a 3-sport athlete. Ethan Carey is a 2-sport athlete. They've been through it before. Nothing's going to phase them. Nothing's going to throw them off. They're tough kids. They battle hard. So I think that's where it starts.
Well, I've never seen it. I've never seen a team that demonstrated that level of zen on the floor. It's amazing to watch. It really is.
It's fun to watch too, and we knew coming into the season that we felt good about the guard spot there and the experience coming back. You throw in the rest of the guys that we don't have anybody that's just trying to go on their own. Everybody's kind of it really is a team effort.
It is.
And we've seen some balanced scoring earlier on this year. Dukes has obviously led us in scoring, but otherwise it's pretty even across the board. And it's because guys aren't selfish. They're just taking what the offense gives us. And I think your calmness word, I think that's a good way to describe it.
And it's more than a comfort in my role thing. I've seen that in teams before. That's not what this is. This is not just comfort in my role, but confidence in my role. And confidence in the role of everybody else on the floor. And it's really amazing to watch.
Yeah, I think they really trust each other out there. And I think it's pretty obvious to see it.
Yeah, Coach, you talked about Cameron Salazar, Ethan Carey, Keaton Dukes. Those guys have had a lot of experience on the team and have really been showing it. Has there anyone that has kind of stepped up and surprised you this year that has made like some big leaps so far? Your team, like we said, the chemistry is just unbelievable. And it takes more than just 3 or 4 guys to really make that happen. So what have you been seeing from the rest of your team?
Well, Jack Stover is kind of the glue that holds us together in a certain way. It's, he's not always the leading scorer, but he just knows the offense. He knows what to do in the offense. He doesn't try to do too much. He's active on defense. He gets his hands on balls, gets deflections. You could take someone like that for granted, and it would be really easy to do it because he's not scoring 20 points a night. But he does his thing, and it really helps us. And then you throw, kind of a newcomer, Grant Brooks, in there, who wasn't with us last year, but he's been, with the program a couple years ago. And his athleticism, when you have guards like Cameron and Ethan, you need some height to go along with them to be a pretty good basketball team. And that 6'4" and vertical jumping ability that Brooks has really helps. And you look at someone like Mason Pasel, who you might not even notice very often sometimes, but he has really made great strides coming into this year. You can tell he's worked on his game. He looks like a basketball player. He's got long frame. He does some really good things. And then 6'5" Colin Roberson in there. You're gonna see him increase his minutes throughout the year.
That is a work in progress.
We talked about after the Angola game finding a way to get Colin some more varsity minutes. He's averaging 17.5 points a game at the JV level, and so you got to find a way to get a kid like that that can score. We know we got something special in him in our future too. So you throw that mix in there, and we got some guys that can play basketball. Caden Welty actually might be the biggest surprise. If you watched us play last year, what he's doing right now, he's another guy that just knows the offense. He doesn't panic out there. we have no problems at all putting them out there at any stretch in the game, and you saw that against Angola and Prairie Heights. He's playing major minutes. We might not have thought that last spring when the season ended what we'd have this year, but I'd say Caden has been a really welcome surprise for us.
Your big men play even bigger than they are. And for a team that, we could talk about Wawasee being a guard-dominated team, but what impressed me from a basketball standpoint, and here am I, Bill Dixon, talking from a basketball standpoint. Yeah, that's funny. What impressed me the most, Stover and Brooks box out. That Stover kid plays like he's 6'4".
Yeah.
With his ability to get those elbows out there, he controls a lot of square footage.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing, a lot of that is they're tall, but they're also athletic.
Yeah.
So they can jump. We haven't even talked about Adam Beer, another great senior that has played sparingly, but the minutes he's provided have been so important. He's made big plays already. He got a steal against Prairie Heights.
Yep.
Blocked 2 shots at the end of the game against Angola. That was just demonstrated his athleticism. And another kid he's calm. He's he knows his role.
Mm-hmm.
He's willing to do his role to the best of his ability. And again, I can't say this enough, but we have such great kids.
You do.
I mean, it's amazing.
You say that every year because the varsity team, just by the nature of the winnowing process, you've got the 12 kids that are the best at it. So you've had an opportunity to work with them for a long time, and they bring an attitude to the game that you want. But even beyond that, this group of kids is really, really special.
They really are. I've said that every year I've been here, and it's been true. It really has been true. We have great kids at Wawasee. We didn't always win a lot of basketball games early on here with Coach Everingham's early years and me joining him in his second year. A couple 6-win seasons, but we still had great kids, and they were fun to coach, and they were trying their best, and they were getting better. But now, they're great kids, and the basketball ability is a little bit stronger. The athleticism is a little bit higher. So it just makes it really fun to coach and really fun to be around these kids.
Coach, I'm kind of curious. We could go on and on about how crazy and different this year has been for you guys. I'm kind of interested to see how it's been different coaching, not only with COVID, but with just how this team has been playing. We talked about just the chemistry. It's got to be just a whole different kind of experience for you as a coach, and Coach Everingham has kind of been the first 2-0 start that you said that you and Coach have had in a while, and it's just been kind of just a different experience. What's it been like for you as a coach in that whole entire process?
It's been strange. The one thing I could say, if you're a high school basketball fan, this actually might be one of the best seasons ever because you can literally watch almost every game in the area. Thursday night, I'm sitting at home, put the kids to bed, and I watch the end of the Northridge and East Noble game. Turn on the radio, listen to Northwood and Westview play. You can watch tons of basketball. So I've actually watched a lot of basketball last season when we were shut down after the season was over. Coach Everingham and I, we watched every game from last year, every minute of every game. Compared notes on what we thought, talked about personnel, who we'd have back this year. So, the preparation wise, we can watch lots of film and study, but the problem is that we haven't been able to put it on the court, and practice what we see, what we know. And that's probably going to be like the same thing this week.
And we'll come back with more with Coach O'Connell in just a moment here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. And welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com with Nate O'Connell, the assistant varsity boys basketball coach for the Wawasee Warriors. Michael?
Yeah, Coach, kind of going right back into where we left off from the last segment, kind of talking about the varsity team. We've been talking about just how COVID has just impacted this season so much. But again, we've also seen some really positive things as well. A 2-0 start. The chemistry has been out of the roof, honestly. We've just seen such huge strides and just amazing play by your guys. But again, it's a different season. You were talking about how you've been just happy to being able to get games in and how that's been a really big positive. What's been your goal for this season, either as a team or the message to the players? Like, what is your guys' goal for this season?
I think a pretty obvious one for us is we've reached that sectional championship game 2 years in a row and haven't come out on top in either one of them. So I think first and foremost, we feel comfortable saying that we want to be a championship team this year. Our goal is to win the sectional championship. Going along with that, you like to win your holiday tournament. We were able to do that last year. We'd like to do that again. I think that'd be big for us. and be competitive and, talk about winning the NLC. We haven't been able to talk about much more than just winning a couple games in the NLC as of recently. So I think we'd like to be in that discussion about the best teams in the NLC. When you're at that point, then you can talk about sectional championships and beyond.
Yeah, and I think this is a great mentality, too. I think a lot of coaches go into this being like, all right, let's just take it game by game. We'll just hopefully we get a season done. Our goal is just to finish the season. But we kind of have a mentality here at Wawasee where we want to win, and we're going to put it through hard work and team play, and that's going to produce wins. And we've been seeing that. I think that's been really awesome to see. Yeah,
it's amazing the culture change in just the last few years since Coach Everingham got here. That wasn't the case 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It was just to go out there and play a game. Now we're a little more focused on winning and make that a little bit more of a priority.
Yeah, definitely. We talked with Coach Smith and the 7th grade team, and we kind of talked about, we used the word homework a little bit as to what he told his guys to do over the summer, kind of in the off season to prepare for next season. We've kind of had these extended breaks with COVID. Have you guys been giving your team any kind of homework activities to do, whether that be watching film or some kind of practice while they've been kind of out for these few weeks?
Yeah, our first stretch, we watched some this before the season started. Our Fairfield game got postponed and we couldn't start practice till a week late. But we watched some film from last year's team, and we watched some of the offensive things and defensive things that we knew we were going to try to put in the first week of the practice of the season. So we did that. And this last week, we haven't been able to do a whole lot. We have watched some film together. We did have a watch party last Friday night. We all watched the Warsaw game together on Google Meet. We were not together personally, by the way. We watched Warsaw played Huntington North. We were watching that together on Google Meet. So we've been able to do things like that, have individual meetings with players through Google Meet, and just communicate, keep guys up to date on what's going on and things like that. It's important.
Yeah, Coach, kind of going into JV too now. We kind of talked about Varsity and how well they've been doing. We're going to kind of transfer a little bit here into JV and how they've been doing, because they've also had a really good season as well, 2-0. And not only has the Varsity been dominating in their wins, JV, I think, has also been dominating in their wins. And especially looking at the very first game against Prairie Heights, they allowed less than 10 points. Yeah. And then coming against a really tough Angola team that was just back and forth the entire game, a really gritty game, and then finishing with a huge win over a tough opponent. Just tell us a little bit about the JV team and how they're doing this year.
Yeah, super excited about our JV team. Coach Hoffert's done a really nice job, and it's been nice to have him around this year. But the first game against Prairie Heights, they weren't very good. They were not good at all.
Well, that's an interesting situation over there, too, because it wasn't that many years ago that Prairie Heights gave up and wasn't even a school for 2 years and sent all their kids to Angola. Yeah. So that's a really small operation over there.
But to hold a team, whatever team you're playing, to 10 points or whatever they did, and is just impressive. And to keep up the energy and the quality of play throughout that entire game was something to be said for those kids. And be able to play some of our younger guys. We had some freshmen that played a lot of minutes in that Prairie Heights game. It was good to see. But, the next night going to Angola, that was a different story. That was a good JV basketball team. And they had a couple players that were legit players that can knock down threes, that were quality basketball players. So we had our hands full. They pressed us a lot. They pressured us, and it kind of really threw us off, especially some of our younger guards. They really struggled against the press. And, Coach Hoffert made some adjustments, and we talked at halftime of what we wanted to do, and the guys went out and they executed and really had a solid second half, took care of the ball, finished against the other team's press. Didn't turn the ball over like they had at stretches in the first half. Just really, when I went in after the third quarter, I was, wasn't sure, how we perform the fourth quarter, but they did a nice job and finished strong. That was a good win, really good win.
And it's great that your JV team is able to follow in the same mold as your varsity team, because that's also a team that is very confident in the other players. It's a team perspective, and they have a real togetherness that goes beyond just throw you the ball and then you go do something with it. They are 12 guys together.
Yeah, our JV and varsity practice together. So those JV guys are going against Cameron and Keaton and Ethan and
and getting the value of what those seniors have to offer.
Exactly. So, that kind of rubs off on you. If you're around quality individuals like that, it's like when I talk to my kids as they grow up, I want them to be around good people. I want their friends to be good people. And, our JV players are around good kids, and that definitely rubs off on them. And it helps them become better basketball players. They're playing against really good competition. Colin Roberson is, he's averaging 17.5 points per game and 5 rebounds per game at the JV level. Mark Wiggs is 12.5 points and 10 rebounds a game. Those are good numbers. And Mark's a junior playing for the first time in a couple of years for us, and just done a really solid job. So we have a lot more size than most JV teams are going to have this year. You throw a Mason Pasel in there a couple quarters, and 6'4", 6'5", with him and Colin in there, and Jay Finlinson knocking down some shots. And if you don't know this, but probably our best JV guard, or probably our starting point guard, is out with a broken ankle, Peyton Felger. So the fact that Josiah Boyer and Jay Finlinson are handling the load of the ball handling is pretty impressive.
And when you work with the JV people, with big men at the JV level, you've also got the factor they're going to grow another 3 inches by the time before now and the end of their career.
I'd take that. Yeah, yeah.
Especially the sophomore.
Yeah, if I'm not sure if Colin's going to grow much more, but if he doesn't, he's going to be fine. But if he does, then that's going to be even better. He's really coming along, and we really look forward to his development throughout this year.
Talk about the homework that you're going to bring, or that is coming for these young men then after this season is over. We talked about homework during this COVID situation with the 7th grade coaches. We talked about what you do after the season is over. And their answer was a little more individualized and not necessarily something formal. Do you give these kids something formal once it's over? Go do this during the summer?
Yeah, we have individual meetings with all of our players, and we communicate with them where we see their role. Hopefully this year we can actually do something in the summertime. Usually in June we get together, we practice 2-3 times a week.
So it's not homework. It's you actually have a summer program for them.
Yeah, we can actually work them out in the spring twice a week. Guys that aren't in spring sports, 2 hours twice a week. So we'll do that. So it's not like we're going to say, here's your homework, you get to come back. We're actually going to be like, hey, you'll be here Tuesday and Thursday next week, and we'll have some post moves for you to do. We'll have some ball handling work, skill development stuff. And then in June, we'll probably play some games. You try and get about 7 to 10 games in against varsity basketball teams, and so yeah, it's a little bit more than just that. We can actually work with guys individually and as a team.
Coach, how does it feel? I feel like as a varsity coach, not only are you guys having success at the varsity level, but to know that you have a JV that is performing at such a high level, does that give you a sense of reassurance, confidence, knowing that you've got quality players coming up, and does it give you confidence in the program itself?
Yeah, especially since it's not just varsity and JV, it's freshmen, our 8th grade teams, our 7th grade teams, our junior warrior program. It's solid all the way up and down. So, you'll get to talk to Coach Fred's here in a little bit, and she's done a really good job with our junior warriors, and we're super excited about our future at Wawasee. I don't know if Coach Everham's going to talk about his twin boys, but he's got some kids of his own coming up through the program here soon. And if you've watched any 8th grade basketball at Wawasee, they're pretty good players, and not to mention there's some really good players around them. So there's a lot to look forward to in our future, and I'm blessed to be here and just super excited.
Coach Everingham's got his young men coming up, his boys, and coaches have had that before. That's something that's happened in Indiana basketball many times, but you have the opposite experience. You've brought your dad with you onto the bench. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, just fortunate enough to the coaching change at Warsaw, and this was a good timing for him to come to Wawasee. We'd talked years ago. He'd love to be on the bench with me someday, and you got to do it this year. And I gave him his little stat sheet to keep track for us, and he does a nice job with that. And he provides a lot for us, X's and O's. His experiences, I can't even tell you how many years. I remember going to Sacred Heart Elementary School practices with him when I was 10 years old, 8 years old, whatever. So that experience is one thing, but then just personally for me to have my dad around is really cool.
Well, and I mean, it's not just having your dad around. Your dad is an award-winning coach both at baseball and in basketball.
Yeah, like I said, he's a good coach, and I'm not even going to take that for granted. But just for me personally, is just something really special to have my dad with me.
Yeah, Coach. We're running a little bit low on time here to kind of close things out. I just wanted to ask you, kind of looking at the next game, Warsaw in particular, huge game. We talked about how this is a big game for not only the Wawasee basketball team, but the Wawasee program in general and athletics. And Warsaw is always a huge game. Kind of looking at your previous games, just what do you think you guys need to really focus on and really hit hard to get that big W against Warsaw? What are some goals for this game?
When you guys are talking after the game's over, I think the biggest stat you'll be able to look at is the rebounding stat. They're just monsters. They're big, athletic, and if we can hold our own rebounding-wise, I think we'll be able to do some other things against them. You know, the fact that they pressure is probably not the worst thing for us. We've handled pressure pretty well. You go ahead and try and pressure Ethan Carey and see what happens. He'll go right around you. I think we'll be okay, X's and O's. You know, we'll see what personnel we have. We'll see our conditioning. I think when it comes down to it, you know, how we defend, but how we rebound is really going to be the key.
Coach, thank you very much for being with us today. Coach Nate O'Connell of the Wawasee Warriors here on Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com. We'll be back and talk Junior Warriors here in just a moment.
Welcome back to Coach's Corner on 93.7 FM The Mix. I'm Michael Shetler. Unfortunately, Mr. Bill Dixon had to go for a meeting, so I'm going to close things out here on our final segment of the Coach's Corner, and I'm blessed enough to be here with Coach Freds of the Junior Warrior Program. Coach, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for letting me.
So to get started off kind of today, the Junior Warrior Program, you just want to describe what that's all about. What grades are you working with? Just tell us what you do in that area.
Yeah, so this year is a little bit different just with everything going on with COVID. So we had to change the format a little bit, but we still have kids coming in from kindergarten through 5th grade. We've actually had a really great turnout this year, which is really encouraging. We have at least 70 kids coming through. And the way that it's different is instead of the format that we're doing this year is we have 2 hours for each age group where it's mostly skill development. So we haven't been able to really dive into a game format like we normally do, and I know the kids love that. But just with the circumstances and everything, we wanted to make sure, you know, everybody's safe and still having fun. So we do a lot of skill development work this year, which has been, I think, a positive change this year. But, you know, I know we're looking forward to the opportune time to start playing games again.
Right.
But yeah, so I have another coach that helps me with this, and we really hone in on, you know, skills and fundamentals while at the same time making sure that these kids are enjoying basketball and having fun.
Definitely awesome. Now, looking at those skills in particular, are there any kind of skills that you think are particularly important at that age? Do you like have a certain skills that you really hone in on that age range? I know I'm probably dribbling, rebounding, and stuff. Like, what's kind of the focus there?
Right. So we have our first segment, which is our kindergartners through 3rd grade. At that point, it's really just the basic fundamentals of ball handling, passing. But what we really started to try to introduce is the actual game. So teaching kindergartners and 3rd graders, you know, how to transition from, okay, at this basket, you're on offense. When the ball changes and the other team gets it, you have to sprint down to the other side, and now you're on defense. And I think that that's something that, you know, as they get older in the next year, 2 years, that's going to be really helpful for, you know, coaches at the 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade level that, you know, they're already learning the way the game is played when they're in kindergarten. That way, when they get into 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade years to come, we're able to actually, you know, work on more detailed skills or, you know, more
Just that IQ, right?
Yeah.
Like that basketball IQ.
Right, exactly. Yeah, trying to get that IQ going. So that's really the kindergarten through 3rd grade is trying to teach them the game, and then you get into the 4th and 5th graders, and that's really where you're trying to teach them. Okay, this is the proper way to shoot. This is how you score. Here's your options. Not only are we teaching, you know, your how to shoot, we're also teaching them how to score, which I think is a really big mindset that you have to accomplish at that age.
Yeah, Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I'm really glad that you say that, because I feel like a lot of kids coming in at that age in particular, they're watching their high school brothers and sisters and friends play. They're also watching, they got the NBA. They've got all those players who are just, that score heavy mentality coming in. Probably as like a young first or second grader, you're like, I want to be Keaton Dukes scoring 24 points a game, and you kind of have to change that mentality over to like, no, this is basketball mentality where there's more to just, it's more than just even just passing, shooting, scoring, dribbling. You have to think about where you're supposed to be on the court, and hitting that at such a young age has got to be really impactful for the progression, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, moving on, kind of talking about, you said you have 70 kids in the program, which is a lot, which is really encouraging, though.
Right.
But also with COVID going on, has that been kind of difficult? Like, have you been having to cut back on the numbers that you've had? How has that impacted your season?
So we split the groups up into 2 different groups. So we have about 35, give or take, in the first group and 35 in the second group. What we've tried to do, or what I've tried to do in the scheduling, is breaking up the kids in groups of, 7 or less at different baskets, so that they're not constantly around 35 other kids at the same time. We do encourage, wearing a mask when they come in. Same thing with the parents. If they stay, I want them to be wearing the mask. So we have tried, to be as safe as possible. Same thing with, like we mentioned, we haven't been able to play, and that, one, has to do with time restrictions, and 2, just, trying to mitigate any, potential health issues. So
now, working with that age range, I feel like it's got to be just a different kind of special. I feel like there's just nothing like kind of working with that kind of age, and just the innocence, and just also probably the excitement also for the game. What's been your favorite part of working with kids in that age range?
My favorite part has always been working with kids, really middle school and younger. So then you get down to kindergarten, is when the light bulb clicks. I love the excitement and the fun that they're having. That always just gets me so excited. And I enjoy that aspect so much, and it makes it, worthwhile going in. But it's the moment that you're trying to teach them something and they don't get it, and finally, they're like, oh, that's what you're trying to do. That's it. Or they'll be like, oh, I've seen, their favorite player, I've seen them do that and stuff. So that's probably the most fun for me. And I do skill development stuff off to the side too, and I think just seeing the progression of each player, and is probably the best part of what I do, and it's so easy to see that in kids that are that young. And anytime they get the ball in their hands, they're gonna get better.
All right. We're here with Coach Freds of the Junior Warrior program. I'm Michael Shetler, kind of going on our last segment here. I'm continuing with you in particular, Coach. Is this kind of your first coaching experience? Have you had other coaching experiences at other schools, or what's your kind of coaching experience been like?
So my coaching experience, playing wise, I grew up in Warsaw. So I played at the Warsaw High School. I went on to play out at University of South Carolina Upstate for a year, and then I finished at Taylor University. After that, I lived in Florida for a little bit, and then I moved back. When I moved back, that's when my coaching career, I guess, started. I started off at Lakeview Middle School, where I coached 8th grade girls. Then the next year, I was at Whitco coaching the varsity team. And then the following year, or 2 years after that, I actually met Coach Everingham and Coach Hoffert and O'Connell, and they brought me in on the Wawasee staff last year. So that was the first time that I've been involved in the Wawasee program, and it's just been really fun, and it's been a learning experience. It was my first time, last year was my first time that I was able to coach a men's team, and so that was a lot of fun. So I was able to help at the JV and varsity levels last year. And then this year, I'm really focusing on player development. So that's why I took on Junior Warriors, doing Club 1. And then I also do individual workouts, obviously not in season, but I work with high school kids in the off season here and, anywhere around. So.
Yeah. So you've been all over, which is really cool to hear. A lot of different experiences, a lot of different schools. And you talked about some different local area schools, and then coming here to Wawasee. What is something that you've kind of seen from the Wawasee program that you've really come to love, or just what's been different about this Wawasee program in comparison to kind of your other schools that you've worked at?
I definitely think that there is a sense of community here. I mean, it has been amazing seeing different community members step up and help the coaching staff in any aspect that's needed. I mean, there's parents, there's faculty, there's administration. I mean, there are just people that are willing to help show up. Even just letting me in and out of, the school building, or they're willing to volunteer at, Junior Warriors and Club One, which is a lot of effort, helping at the high school level too. I think that is something that you don't get everywhere. And that's definitely been a blessing to see in this community. And probably the biggest difference that I've seen.
Yeah, I remember getting into just the beginning of this program in particular, coming from Fairfield. I noticed that immediately too. Just the overwhelming acceptance I feel like that this community kind of offered was just unbelievable to kind of just feel that kind of love and acceptance just coming out of nowhere. Some kid from Goshen, Indiana coming in and broadcasting their basketball games, and them just being there every time you see them, they're like, "Hey, nice job, Michael. You did great today." You're like, "I don't know you, but thanks. I appreciate that." And so I can totally relate to that. Right. That's so awesome to kind of hear that's just kind of the mentality that this community offers. And I think that's really special for the parents to hear as well, just to know that is appreciated, which is really cool as well. We're running a little bit low on time here. We've got about 3-ish more minutes. So we're going to kind of close out with a couple more questions. I did like to hear that you do have some experience with Warsaw, which is kind of cool. And then they have that big game coming up. What are your thoughts on the big varsity game against Warsaw coming up here?
It's going to be an exciting game. This is a game that we always look forward to, and I will say it's not just Wawasee looking forward to a Warsaw game. It goes both ways. Warsaw definitely views Wawasee as a rival, and so they both come out digging in, ready to be gritty and be aggressive and bring their best to the court. So I'm always excited for this game. Obviously, I cheer on Wawasee. I'm rooting for us, but it's always fun going back into that Tiger Den, and it'll be great, being able to walk away with a W, coming from your own home spot. So
I've always said I've loved their kind of, I don't know if it's the color scheme or something, but just like that gym in particular has always just been kind of a really interesting and fun kind of environment to be in, especially in basketball. You have such a history at Warsaw too, which is really cool.
It will be interesting this year with COVID and the limited amount of fans in that big arena. So I think it'll potentially be a benefit for our guys going in. They're going to have their normal support system. So I think that will be potentially a good thing for us.
Yeah, definitely. Now you said though that you also have worked with the high school guys as well, which has been cool. What's your kind of opinion of the season so far? And like, have you seen some different players grow, or you talked about your favorite thing being kind of seeing that click where you see a player get it and really grow? Like, have you seen that in the varsity level at all? And you've been like, wow, that's something.
The one name that comes to mind immediately is Keaton Dukes. We have worked with Keaton. He has put in tremendous amount of work in the off season. And the other coach that I've mentioned that does Junior Warriors and Club One, he also does skill development with me. His name is Glenn Hefter. We've worked with Keaton a lot, and we see a lot of skill, a lot of potential, a lot of growth. I mean, this kid can go on and play at the next level, and I'm so glad. I'm so proud of him for coming out the first 2 games and really dominating and showing what he's made of. I mean, this is his season. We every player on that varsity team that we've worked with, we've seen strides, but we are proud of Keaton, and I think that he stepped up into that leader role, which he needed to do.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Coach Fred, so much for coming on the show today. We appreciate you and everything you had to say. I know the parents loved hearing about the Junior Warrior program. That's the beginning of a child's basketball career. Without that kind of fundamental learning and coaching, like, they're not going to get to that Keaton Dukes level where you're dropping 24 points a game. So I'm sure I speak for all of the Wawasee community, and just thank you so much for everything that you do. And we really appreciate you investing in the lives of the young children here.
Absolutely. It's a blessing to be able to do it.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for our Coaches Corner here on 93.7 FM The Mix. Our next game is going to be at home against the Warsaw Tigers. Huge rivalry game for Wawasee. Big game, so we're excited to have that one to call for. It's going to be both myself and Bill Dixon, so Michael Shetler and Bill Dixon on the call here on 93.7 FM The Mix. Please tune in for that one. That's going to be our next game for the Wawasee boys basketball team. Knock on wood, nothing happens with COVID. We've kind of had a lot of up and downs, cancellations, postponements with everything, but we're excited for a big Warsaw game at home and hopefully going to get our guys to 3-0 on the season. So with that, that's going to conclude our Coach's Corner show for today. For myself, Bill Dixon, and the rest of the wonderful coaches that we've had on today's show, thank you for listening. And tune in next week for our next segment of Coach's Corner, Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. We'll see you next week on 93.7 FM The Mix and 937themix.com.